Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the MHP Show podcast. I'm your host, Derek Vickers. And you know, guys, here on the MHP Show, we talk about anything and everything that has to do with mobile home parks, mobile home park investing, crazy stories that happen in mobile home parks. We've gotten some crazy stories we heard from our guests here. And we talk about owning and operating and finding deals. And today I have another special guest with us. But first off, I want to let you guys know that we have the free webinar up at it's go.parkinvestingpro.com. That's my free webinar that I did about a month ago. You can get access to that immediately. And basically it talks about the basics of investing in this asset class. Because when I started investing in this asset class, there were things that I didn't know that actually kept me from taking action. And so I talk about that in this webinar. It's 60 minutes long. Go to go.parkinvestingpro.com. We always have that link in the show notes here. So without further ado, I have Mr. Armand Violi. Probably butchered the last name. Did I say it right?
You got it right. You got it right. Got it right.
Got it. So Armand is a broker with Otherstreet Partners. He's been in this business for three years, about the same amount of time as me. And he's done over $75 million worth of deals in this business in that time. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So Armand, too, he also has, and he's wearing the shirt now, putting the plug in. I love it. He also has a website, MHPvalue.com, and we can talk a little bit about that, but it basically helps owners. He gives owners proper valuations on their parks, and he specializes in this asset class. He's all over the internet. He's got a YouTube channel. He's on Instagram. And so I love this guy. We met and we hit it off instantly, so I had to bring him on the show. So Armand, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on, Derek. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, dude, we're ready to get going here, and glad to have you on. So, I saw in your bio,
yeah.
So you were a college dropout too, like me.
Got to do it.
So we can fist bump to that. Right. But so tell me, like, you got out of college, you're now selling trailer parks.
Yeah.
I don't think they had that at the what I want to be when I grow up day in college or high school. So tell me how you got into this crazy little business.
Yeah. So I'll kind of condense the story just to make it short. So growing up, I was always a huge Grant Cardone fan. And I feel like everyone in the real estate industry came somewhat from that, especially the younger generation.
Yeah.
I always wanted to get in commercial real estate and eventually become a syndicator or some type of on the buy side like yourself. And I was thinking, let me become a real estate agent like everyone's always thought and get into the industry that way. I had the wrong misconception that you had to get started in residential real estate first before you could work your way up to commercial. Now I know it totally doesn't work like that at all. But anyways, was a residential realtor. I did my first deal through like a random guy I found on a Facebook group from like spam Facebook posts on like different like real estate Facebook groups. And I had no idea that cold calling was a thing. I was like one of those young guys like cold calling doesn't work. Cold outreach, like that's like 1980s stuff. No one does that anymore. Anyways, got the first deal, represented the buy side on like a $200,000 condo. And then all said and done, once you cleared up like all the splits and everything, I cleared about, I think it was like $2,300. And I was like, you know what? This took like months of work, like 2-3 months bringing this guy around. I had no idea how like the contracts worked or anything. Just a whole pain in the ass. And I made $2,300 and realized, maybe I'm not going to get rich doing that. Fast forward now, and this builds into the story of how I got success with mobile home parks. I found this guy named Ricky Caruth, who really pitches cold calling for residential agents. And I was getting together like cold call lists. He uses a program called RedX, which is kind of like in our industry, Reonomy. It's the same thing where you can kind of click, see the property owner info. And I was coming up with this whole master plan of how I'm going to cold call 5,000 people a week on a triple dialer, and I'm going to be rich. But then I was thinking, well, I'm running out of money, so let me use this cold calling idea and kind of like cold call different real estate jobs, like a leasing agent or something that I could do as a day job while I still cold call on weekends and try and make it like on my own. Ended up calling, there was like a job posting on LinkedIn, and it was for a property management job. at a trailer park. Ended up cold calling that lady, after applying and everything. And then she was like, oh, we actually are hiring a broker on our brokerage team. And that ended up being Enon Winkler, Otherstreet Advisors. And then when I was there, I pretty much pitched him on a job. I was like, dude, I could start cold calling. I just need you to like throw me $400 a week so I could like pay the bills. And then, from then on, spent about, and then, now he was a multifamily guy that jumped over to mobile home parks. And he was kind of one of the mobile home park experts in the industry. So I had a good mentor getting into the space, and he showed me how he kind of does everything from property research, what he cold calls, scripts, and so forth. And I started in, I want to say like November, December of, I believe 2019. So basically beginning of 2020 is when I was really in the industry. And then I closed my first deal in October of 2020. And the interesting thing was that first closing came from, I cold called, basically I had no idea what I was doing on the phone. So like I was like shaking, couldn't say a word. Like, I mean, I couldn't even read a script. It was like that bad. And I cold called this guy in Asheville, North Carolina. And he hates brokers right off the bat, basically telling me to F myself. Like, F you, I don't deal with brokers, like total waste of time. But I just said, all right, like, let me see if I can figure something out. I have buyers, like I'll have one of them reach out to you direct, or let me see what I can figure out. I go to Enon, and Enon's like, oh, I know the buyer for this. We get an agreement from the buyer that he'll pay us 2.5, or it was either 2.25% or 2.5% if he ever closes the deal, and he'll do everything. And now flash forward to October when I had the first closing, he closed the deal totally hands off. We didn't do a single thing. And then I got a pretty healthy check just off a random phone call where I got told to go F myself. And from then I was sold on the mobile home park industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's unpack that for a second. So you talked about cold calling. Look, I know a lot about cold calling because when I was up in the insurance business, that's all I did. Yeah. I had to do it. Right. And so when I got into this business, it was easier.
Yeah.
So like, what skills do you think? Because, you hear people all the time, like you said, oh, cold calling's dead. No one cold calls, which you look with online and shit like that. Of course, to a degree, they might be right, but to a very large degree, they're wrong. So talk about cold calling, like the skills it helps you develop and why you need to learn how to do it.
Yeah. So I think from a young guy who couldn't even speak to like a property owner to now I consider myself decent. Without cold calling, you really don't know like the flow of conversations with people in business. And I think the cold calling is kind of a fast track to success in the sense of if you're a young 18-year-old idiot or you don't have any business skills, the fast track to getting those business skills would be cold calling because it forces you into awkward conversations right off the bat. So now let's say down the road where you're in my position where you have, like I have a good amount of clients that come to me through like different marketing and stuff, but those phone calls are very easy to take now. And it's very easy to talk through deals once I've already went through the trenches of learning how to speak on the phone, how to sell, how to kind of guide the conversation. Because that's not really things you could learn without kind of just getting thrown in the fire, I think. And I think that's what cold calling kind of forces you to build your skills in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I would tell people too that like, well, let me ask you this. Were you scared on the first call you made?
I was frightened for, I think like the first year, even after I had the closings and stuff, I was still like, I don't want a cold call. And like, and we'll get into it. Like I've come full circle and I think cold calling is actually a super ineffective approach now, but you can't get into any type of real business industry, I think, without, I know there's people that do like door-to-door sales, like some type of cold outreach, I think is like the fast track to getting some type of small success in business first. So yeah, I think it's unavoidable.
Yeah, totally. And look, I cold called door-to-door businesses and insurance for years and got my teeth kicked in daily. Right. And I learned so much about people and about business. And like, I would tell you that it is a very important skill to learn. And one other thing that I'll tell you is that it never really gets like easy to make a cold call. The first one, there's always some apprehension there, right? You just get used to doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a very important skill for people to learn because, I took business classes in college They didn't teach me shit about cold calling. They didn't teach me shit about business, really.
I can't believe that. And I'm not like one of those colleges of scam people. Like I don't preach it, but I lean towards that because if you think about, I feel like college, it teaches you a bunch of like skills that'll lead towards like a typical corporate job and just filling your role in the industry, but it doesn't actually teach you like the actionable steps of getting into business. And the actionable steps of getting into business is how to research your client that you're going to provide a service to or product to, how to find that particular client, how to reach out to them, outreach, cold outreach, sales, like all the actual actionable steps to get into business. I feel like college really misses the beat on. And yeah, that's why I ended up dropping out purely because of that reason. I was like, all right, this isn't helping what I want to do. And I was just like a frat guy drinking, having fun.
Yeah. I know all about that. Yeah. How long were you in school? How long did you stay in?
Yeah. So I guess that's my one claim to fame is I actually only had 5 classes left. So like pretty much a semester left.
Dude, we're like brothers in that. I think I had maybe like a full year.
Yeah. Just like,
half a year, full year left.
You're like 80% there, but it was like, I didn't want to waste another X amount of months. And then when I had the job opportunity with Enon, I was like, it's not a part-time gig, real estate, especially if you're on the side. So I was like, all right, we always go back to college, finish that later.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, and I guess, so a lot of our listeners are, we do have a lot of people that are new in the business. And so in talking about cold calling, because in order to get your first deal, you're probably going to have to do that, right? Yeah. You're probably going to have to do that. Yeah. So just touch on like things to do and things not to do when you're cold calling. Like what's the good structure? Like give people some tips here.
You know what I would say? I'm a little unique in the sense of I don't think there is a right and wrong thing to say on the phone. I almost think you can get away with saying anything if you just sound natural on the phone. And that's just going to come from talking on the phones a lot and doing a bunch of cold outreach and being used to it. I do think the real skill to it, and it took me a while to realize this, and like there's especially like guys on our team, there's guys on our team that are way better at the phones than others and whatever. But I really think it's asking the right questions to guide the conversation to where you want to go. Like, because everyone's opening, whether you ask them right off the bat, hey, do you want to sell? Let's say I cold call a random owner. I ask them if they want to sell. Everyone says you shouldn't do that, but sometimes like just get to the point. I mean, your typical cold call is not going to sit on the phone with you and listen to a story unless maybe your voice and tone's really that good. But I'm not one of those guys that, I don't know, as a young dude in the industry, I feel like I'm not like that 40-year-old guy that can get along with the 50-year-old park owner that's like going to be chatting on the phone for 30 minutes. It's kind of like, all right, like, can I provide you the service? What are you looking to do? So I really think it's asking the right questions, because in the beginning, I always thought when I was reaching out to park owners, I was kind of misguided on what I was trying to get out of them and like how to navigate the territory of, and I'm trying to not be so vague with it because I know it's a very open-ended kind of question, but like when someone's looking to sell their park, and for me being a broker, let's say I start off, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I'm reaching out to you to see if you own this mobile home park. Have you ever thought about selling or any consideration of selling the next couple of years, whatever your pitch is? Asking them like, a lot of times when a seller's like, yeah, I want to sell. How do you guide the conversation now? And this is where the skills come in. Me as a broker, I need to identify if my product is actually a good fit for them first and what ultimately their goal is. So if someone's a distressed seller and like they need to get out of the property, they're like in a life emergency, or let's say they have cancer or something came up where they need to get out of the property soon, they'd rather just get an immediate cash offer, quick closing now, well below what the property's worth. Vice versa, if someone's just starting to feel out what offers come their way, like a seller typically will say, yeah, I've been thinking about selling in the next 2 years, make me an offer. Well, now you have to know, like, all right, run through some questions to get the accurate info on the property. If they're willing to hold on to this property for the next couple of years, maybe the brokerage pitch, which is, well, if you want to get max value, we should properly market this on property. That's a good way to take it. Sometimes they might just be telling you, hey, I'm feeling it out, seeing where offers come in. But if they hit a number right off the bat, like they'll probably sell tomorrow. But you don't want to overshoot on the front end. So you have to make sure you position your questions in a way that let me kind of give like a deal story. Like there's been times where I've lost down a deal where a seller's telling me, like, let's say a park's worth $2.5 million. And let's say I underwrote it, I'm at 2.5 million on it. The seller keeps telling me they'll take they want 3 million plus, and we know it's unrealistic. And the amount of times I've dropped those deals, and then someone came in with an offer at 2.3 and they took it. That happens so much, and it's because I didn't realize the proper questions to ask on the front end. Because from their point of view, you're just another a-hole calling them on the phone trying to bother them about their park. So they're just going to throw out some number. Yeah, I want 3.5 million, or don't even talk to me, and it's only worth 2.5. But then I've had someone meet them and go give them an offer at 2.3 and they got the deal. And I just didn't work on it because I didn't know the proper questions to ask. It wasn't that my pitch was wrong. It was that I didn't know the proper questions. So I really think cold calling, the biggest tips is like, not be afraid to do it and understand the proper questions to ask to guide these sellers into the direction you want them to go. That makes sense. Like, I think that's what the skill is. Because anyone can read a script,
Yeah, totally. How many deals do you think you've lost like that?
Man, I know.
I want to make it burn. I want to make it burn so you don't make that mistake again.
I'll say at least 25. Whew. And I know this too, because a new thing I've been doing is like automated text blasts and things that go out. And the very first text blast I sent out, I think it was around close to 20 plus, maybe people. Like I didn't keep like an exact statistic, but I took notes in my database. Probably around 20 people texted me back. They sold their park, and they're people I talked to multiple times. But like when you're manually following up with people, there's not enough time to follow up with 2,000 records.
Right.
Because you're always trying to cold call new people. But like with the automated follow-up I'm doing now, like I realized I missed out. The first text blast I sent, now every time I send a text blast, there's at least 5 or 6 every single time. So it might be 40 deals at this point that I missed out on, that I could have worked on. And I wrote them off. They're not a real seller. They're not going to sell. They're unrealistic. Boom, they sold.
Yeah. Yeah. And that happens, dude. Like even deals that I've worked on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy, or I didn't follow up with him for whatever reason. He reminded me of somebody and I didn't think he liked me or whatever, stupid stuff that goes through your head. Right. Yeah. And then, 6 weeks later, I get an email from you guys or Enon. Hey, we just freaking closed this park. I'm like,
you're like, what the heck? How'd that happen?
I'm like, Jesus Christ. I should have just kept following up with this guy.
Yeah.
And how important is follow up in this game?
Yeah. Follow up. Like no deal has ever happened on the first call unless you get extremely lucky. And even then, like I would say my average from first call to offer accepted, forget about from offer accepted to contract. That's always tons of back and forth, but just first call to agreeing on a number, you're probably at least 10 follow-ups.
Oh, yeah.
I think like you're going to follow up with them at least 3 to 4 times a year within the next, if they're thinking about selling. So they finally agree on a price or agree to just give you info. That'll probably take like up to 10 calls just to get the info, because I don't really want to sell. 2 months go by, then maybe you catch them right when something happens. And now they're like, yeah, I'll send you the info. Definitely follow up is where the real money comes in.
Yeah, totally. And look, guys, I'm telling you, we've talked about getting off-market deals on here before. So think about this. You own this property. It's spitting off good cash flow to you for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Yeah. Right? All the tenants. It's your baby. Yeah. Like, if it's mine, I'm not going to sell it to you on the first call. I'm not going to give you a listing on the first call. I'm not going to give you whatever on the first call because these guys are getting pounded daily. Yeah. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? And that's through follow-up. When I did insurance, dude, I was never like this great sly salesman on the phone. I just followed up a lot and I made more calls than people.
Yeah. And especially in our industry, and this applies to, I think, all commercial real estate, but particularly mobile home parks. People that wholesale or invest in single family, when they're cold calling for deals, there's a lot of quick timeline transactions and first call works out because you'll come eventually, statistically, after enough phone calls, you're going to come across that person that needs to get out of their property next week. Because maybe a family situation, they have to move, they got a new job, something happens where they need to sell their property. In mobile home parks, if there's like our typical, I'd say per seller we're targeting is usually like an old retiree that owns a mobile home park that's looking to just get out of the business right after the sunset. Like they don't need to sell ever off the drop of a hat. Like usually it's like, they're like, okay, I'm thinking about selling now. I'm getting, they're seeing prices get thrown at them. And it's like, everyone's cold calling and hunting them. And there's never like an exact stop where they need to sell because they have a cash flowing asset that's paying them. So usually you're going to need to follow up and kind of, and like I was saying, ask the right questions to guide them along and really find out what they really want to do with their property and what's most mutually beneficial for you guys to get the deal.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What have you been seeing and talking to sellers now? Do you think they're getting any more realistic on their pricing?
No, I haven't seen any.
No.
Since the interest rate rise, I would say like realistic trade price is probably 15 to 20% below what the peak was, and sellers' expectations have not dropped a single bit. And if anything, they're even more worse. Yeah. I'd say on average. Like I would say, like there's a stat that I track in my database of like workable deals for all the financials I receive on every person I'm talking to. And my like ratio of what I think are sellable deals versus not is half of what it was before the interest rate rise. So I'm still finding sellers. I'm still getting the info at the same rate. If not, I'm a lot better now because just my skills increased over time. But the actual ratio of workable deals is significantly lower just because sellers haven't come down with expectations yet.
Yeah. And I've underwrote so many freaking deals in this last 6 months. And they're all, they're all 4 and 5 caps, 5.5 caps.
And then Florida, man, I don't even understand. I still don't understand Florida. So right now, Ben and I have a campground in Winter Haven that it doesn't pencil.
He sent that to me. He sent that to me.
The campground. Yeah, it doesn't pencil. So I mean,
yeah, right.
So even in Florida, I don't even understand from the buyer side, like how are they buying some things? Like they really just look at it as a price per pad, I think, and especially in Florida, you have so many people that they're just trying to accumulate the units rather than pencil day one because I guess they have like a longer exit plan, or I don't know.
Yeah, I guess, or I just like some of these deals. It's like seller is like, hey, I want the number. Like, I'm sorry, dude, I'm not paying for the fact that you were a bad business person for 30 years and never raised the rents and never did X, Y, and Z. You never did anything that a prudent businessman would do.
Yeah.
And so these sellers, they want you to pay for their lack. Their lack of business savvy.
Yeah, the best thing is when like even that small one in Winter Haven, I say it was like a 9 unit. The guy's ridiculously overpriced. He keeps saying like, "Well,
you want $1 million for that?"
Yeah, $1 million for 9 units. And I brought him an offer at 700.
Wow,
isn't that crazy? 700, and he still didn't take it. He says, "I think I can get more." I'm like, "All right, good luck. I'll see you in 6 months."
Was he carrying the paper on that?
No, all cash.
I guess he's just going to pay cash for it.
Yeah, I guess he'll just hold on as long as he needs. But like the like him, it's amazing when they're like, "Well, you can get $1,200 a month for these units," but it's like, "But you're getting $650."
You're getting $650. I can't come in and raise the rent $600. Maybe you could kick everybody out and do it, but like,
then
it's not fun.
Even in a mythical world, let's say you could magically, I'm not going to pay you for that if I got to go do that work. And now the tenants are going to hate me, and you get to ride off into the sunset feeling happy. Like it's just not mutually fair. So,
you got to go through World War III.
Yeah.
And then to get the value of the park up to what you paid for it. And look, guys, I know what it takes to run these things, right?
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Yeah.
And so is the juice worth the squeeze is what I go back to. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of deals coming through. I could go buy them all if I wanted to. But do I want the headache of that to make, to lose money in the first year in some cases? Right. So anyways, I was just curious to see what you're getting, because especially in Florida, dude, there hadn't been any movement on prices.
Yeah. Florida's crazy. I mean, I still don't really focus on Florida. I know Ben on our team, you and him talk about it. I know he likes to focus on it, but I just have way more opportunity in other states where pricing's a little more realistic. So
what other states are you in that you're seeing more opportunity from a pricing perspective?
Yeah, previously for like the last 3 years, when I was more cold calling focused and just active approach, it was more the Southeast, like the Carolinas, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky. But I always focus on the Midwest as well, like Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, those kind of states. And from the marketing, now I'm more marketing based than cold calling. I can touch on that a little bit, but since doing the marketing, I'm just getting better responses from the Midwest. But I think it's because you have more realistic sellers there or older, kind of wanting to retire type people. So I just coincidentally, I'm focused on the Midwest now, but it's not that I'm like, oh, I only cold call Ohio, Indiana, Missouri. It's just that's where my marketing is getting more traction. Because the Southeast is kind of getting bought up like Florida. It's very consolidated. A lot of investors are owners now. Not a lot of flops. And then coincidentally, a lot of the owners in the Carolinas have their own cold calling teams. So we're kind of in competition with our own buyers, which is an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing, dude, I've been talking to, we've been getting some leads around Florida.
Yeah.
And so much stuff was bought up in Florida in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like literally just a ton of stuff. We were one of the people that was doing that.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that some of these people are like, hey, yeah, I want to sell. And then I look at the number that they paid for some of these things. Like,
yeah. And it's like, I don't know how you're going to get out of it.
Like, I don't know how you're going to get out of that. I've seen that a lot here in the last 2 weeks, and deals have been coming through that, some guys on my team have been finding, and I'm seeing that. I'm like, wow, dude, they paid some crazy numbers for some of this stuff.
Yeah. I think, I was talking with another broker that's based here in Tampa that does mobile home parks, and, he's big on data, and he was going through like, I don't know how he sourced this data, but he was saying of all the mobile home parks in the state of Florida, there's only around 600 left that are mom and pops. So Florida's really getting consolidated because I think the entire state has around like 3,500 or 4,000 parks. So it's like the final like 10 to 20%.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Is that, well, yeah, I guess you said you didn't know where he's getting his data, but I'd love to see, because I bet, and most of those are probably small stuff, I would say.
Yeah, I'd imagine most of them are like 10, 12 units and stuff like that. So really, if you think about the large parks that are still available, there's probably close to none left.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why when we had a chance, and this property is what it is, but we bought this 300 unit park, and we didn't really like the location. We didn't whatever, but I'm like, guys, when are we ever going to get the chance to buy a 300 unit park in Florida again?
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah, I'm sure it was directly from a mom and pop, right?
It was like a quasi, institutional mom and pop investor kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, dude, I want to talk about MHP value for one. Actually, before we go to that, you mentioned something here I wanted to talk about. So you talked about, we'll go back to MHP value. You mentioned something about your direct marketing to sellers, and you're not cold calling as much anymore. So talk about your process and what you're actually doing now. Yeah.
So actually, before I get into that, to kind of help your viewers out, let me do like a quick little crash course on like the 0 to 3 of like a 10-step process of like how to get deals.
Sure.
First, and then this will roll into how I'm more marketing approach now. So if you're starting with $0, zero money or anything, all you need to do is figure out how to get at least enough money to buy Reonomy. Reonomy is a program to where you can click and see property sellers, owners. And now it's not 100%. It's actually, in my opinion, very poor. Like it's bad because it's probably like 50% of not even 50% of the info on there is correct. But it's the only commercial real estate software for mobile home parks that you can look at it on a map, click it, see at least some phone numbers there that might be correct, and call it. So first thing, if you're starting from 0, buy a Reonomy account if you're trying to find deals. Second step, figure out how to research phone numbers. I will say, and I'm kind of giving away secret sauce, there's a program called IDI Core. And IDI is originally a program that you could only use if you have like a debt collector's license or your FBI or some type of agency or something like that. But they came out with a marketing program that's pretty much just as good, but it filters out and it removes all like the social security number and all like the really private stuff. Mm-hmm. And some loophole where they could sell their program to like people doing real estate marketing. So IDI Core, by far, it's the number one cell phone finder, like tenfold. I've tried everything else. I've tried TLO, LexisNexis, everything. IDI Core is the best by far. All right. So, and then to backtrack a little bit, let's say you're on Reonomy and it shows a business. Learn how to research business LLCs and who the owners are. Whoever can go figure that out. There's a lot of guides on the internet for that. It's not rocket science. So boom, you know how to find the seller. You know how to identify who owns the property, what their cell phone number is. If you can find their emails too, that's also good. And I'll touch on that later with the marketing. Now you have, what do you say to them? I think getting to the point and asking, hey, have you thought about selling your park is the best pitch. Everyone says, oh, that's like such an amateur pitch. F everyone else. I really think the number of calls you make is more important than what you say on the phone.
Facts.
And, yeah, no one's trying to have a conversation with some random a-hole that's calling them up on the phone, bothering them when they're trying to do something productive. So when you call them, ask them, hey, do they want to sell? If they're thinking about selling, they are going to tell you yes. Now, they might hang up on you right off the bat and be like, I can't talk right now because you're just another cold caller like the other 20 that called them. Either way, they want to sell now. Now you just need to think about, all right, I have their cell phone. I confirm they're the owner of the park, and I know they're thinking about selling. Now comes the follow-up, and you need to figure out how to follow up. And this touches onto the questions. Well, when are you thinking about selling? Is this like, do you want to sell in the next couple months, or are you thinking about selling, but really it's the next 2 years? That's going to change how you follow up with them. It's going to change the type of follow-up you could do. If it's the next 2 to 3 months, it's time to just start writing them an offer. Like, even without getting the info, let's go to LOI, start shooting them like, hey, I know other parks are trading at this. I'll write you an LOI at this, but I need to verify the info. That way you can just expedite the process. If they're selling 2 years down the road, now you got to ask, and I'm sure Derek's course will teach you like what to ask for and the different terminology, because I know your marketing kind of pitches on that. Like, what is a rent roll, P&Ls? If they don't have proper financials, well, what kind of info can you provide? How can you verify it? Sometimes when I can't get info out of an owner, I'll just call the property manager and pretend like I'm looking for a lot to rent. And I'll ask everything. And that, like, all right, here's like a good approach you could do if you went that way. Let's say seller doesn't want to talk to me, doesn't want to give me any info, but I know that they're thinking about selling. They just don't believe that I'm a legit person on the phone, right? I call the property manager, and since I can get away with this pitch where I say, hey, I'm a local college student doing a survey, or like I'm writing up a paper for school on affordable housing. And do you mind if I ask you a few questions on your property just to see how you guys run it? And I will get everything from water bills, sewer bills, management costs, management gets paid, lot rents, when they did their last rent raise, everything, occupancy, like the whole 9 yards. If I do that.
Guys, are you listening and paying attention to this? Yeah. This is freaking gold right here.
Yeah. And I'm sure the people, since a lot of your marketing, Derek's on the internet, I'm sure it's younger guys looking to get in the industry. So if you're a younger guy, you got to run with I'm doing a college paper. Like this would really help. I'm doing a whole study on affordable housing. You might have run through questions, and guys, use Derek's whatever list of questions and what you need on a park to evaluate it. Just run through that whole list and just say it's for a paper. Usually works. All right, let me see where did I leave off?
You were calling to do the survey if the seller if they didn't want to give you any data, but you knew that they wanted to sell.
Yeah. Now, okay, so this is all how you're finding how to source deals, because we're talking about how to find off-market deals direct to seller. That's pretty much the whole process. Now, actionable steps that a lot of young people don't understand, and even my own friends that are in all types of business and friends trying to get in real estate, they do not realize or keep track of stats. And what I mean by this is, when I tell them cold call property owners or cold call, like I had a friend and he now works for 100 units. This is actually a guy who reached out to me through Instagram because he liked my vlogs. And it was a young guy who went to UCF, the college, same college I went to and everything. He wanted a job in commercial real estate. And everyone that asked me how to get a job in commercial real estate, but this applies to finding off-market deals of property owners, I would tell them, figure out, all right, what is something that a commercial real estate broker would want? Free labor and research. A free cold caller. So if you cold called all of the commercial real estate brokers in town and said, hey, I'm willing to do research. I know how to research properties and I'm willing to cold call. I'll work for free for 3 months. Let me see if I can help find a deal. I just want to get into the industry. Every single person would give you a job. Like, I know I would give you a job.
I'll give you a job now.
Yeah. If you're going to be a free cold caller, and I'll pay, like, Like, because you won't know how to reel in the deal, get it under contract, do all that. But when it closes, I'll pay you 30% of like the commission. So you can make 20 grand off just pitching free labor. Like, a lot of people don't realize that. But the big thing is that when I tell someone cold call, I tell them you need to write down every single broker in town on a piece of paper, get their cell phone number, get their email, and you need to call down this piece of paper, irrelevant of what they say. Get through the list and then follow up with the list every single month over and over and over again. But the biggest thing is make a list and hit the numbers. Too many young people try 4 times and they're just like, it's not working out. I'll try again tomorrow. You only called 4 people. So like when I'm cold calling in for deals, it is you. Like, let's say you don't have a CRM. I'm super polished. I have a whole fancy process now. But let's say I'm starting from ground zero. I'm on Reonomy. I'm on a map. And I look at mobile home parks. I just look at them. Click, dial. Click, dial. Click, dial. Take notes on a piece of paper or on an Excel sheet, one by one, of what the phone number was, who answered the phone, how the call went. Boom, 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 boom. And if you didn't hit 150 in the first day, you did not try. Now, I don't think 150 is... If you have long-winded conversations, you're not going to hit 150. And I know so many brokers love to come online or on different podcasts and be like, oh yeah, our team's on dialers and everyone does at least 200 dials a day. That's because their dialers going through they count all the ones that are disconnected, number didn't work, all that. So
those don't count.
Yeah, F those people. They love to be like, you make 200 calls a day. There's not enough time in the day if you're having conversations.
Correct.
Yeah. So everyone loves to throw out these big numbers. Just actually put in a full, like, if you did 3 to 4 hours a day of like, for those 3 hours, you are just dial, note take, dial, note take, dial, note take. I guarantee you will find an off-market deal below market value within 3 months. All you need is 3 to 4 hours a day. Dial, note take, dial, note take. Every single month, follow up with that person you just dialed with. And in 3 months, you will find your first deal. Like, for sure, guaranteed. You did that religiously every day for 5 days. Just 3 to 4 hours. And like, people overcomplicate it. It's really that simple, because you're broke. You can't market. You can't do mailers. You can't pay for Facebook ads. You can't do email lists. You can't do text blasts. You're a brokey idiot. You're starting from ground zero. Time to hop on the phones.
You just got sweat at that point.
Sweat, baby. You got to get it.
You just got sweat at that point.
And people think it's hard to find a deal. And this is another thing too, as a broker. And I'm going on a rant now, because like,
dude, let's go, man. This is freaking gold, man.
Yeah, it's easy. So many people, people need to look at what parks are really trading for, because there's so many first-time buyers that do the whole thing. They go through like the Frank and Dave boot camp or just some type of educational course, mobile home parks. And they always tell them, reach out to brokers and network for opportunities. And so many first-time buyers call me and they're telling me, or they'll try and tell me, yeah, that deal doesn't pencil, or I don't think I can get close to that number. And I tell them, like, you're wrong, because it's going to trade at this number. And like, then it does sell at that. Let me give you a deal. And this is a small deal I'm marketing now. Like, my typical deal size, I would say, is probably around 3 to 4 million, usually around like 70, 80 units. But I happen to be marketing a first-time buyer style deal, 22 units, all lot rent park in Hartford, Michigan right now. And we have it listed at 650,000. The amount of conversations I've had with first-time buyers tell me that the deal's only worth 500,000. No way it trades near 650. And I have an offer right now from a large owner in the area at 605. And I penciled this to 600 right on the dot. So like, right there, like, I know how to underwrite. I'm not the best, but for brokers, I think I'm really good. Like, first-time buyers, they don't realize they don't know how to underwrite. And when they took a course, a lot of times the course is giving them outdated info. Like, if you look at the old school Frank and Dave's, they used to be like, you have to always buy it at 10 cap. Even now, with the interest rates up, 10 caps are not happening. Parks are trading.
It's not real.
It's not real. So like, sometimes you gotta look and be knowledgeable on your market and see the recent sales and look, and maybe do that same pitch for the one that just sold, because you're not going to be able to get the info out of the person. So you do the same pitch at a property manager, figure out like, oh, this sold like 2 months ago. Like, are you guys like fully occupied? What are your lot rents? Kind of backtrack your underwriting and be like, oh, wow, this traded at a 7.5 cap. So maybe I should be making offers at a 7.5 cap, because if you're not, you're going to lose it to the other guy. So that's something, like, new guys in the industry, I get it. Like, everyone wants to find a deal, but if you're not good at underwriting, you don't understand what the market's paying, like, don't expect to find a unicorn at like a 12 cap when everyone else is paying 8.5 caps.
Yeah. Yeah. And dude, and markets are like, they're very intelligent. Like they're not, they just are. Like you have to, and what I'm trying to say here is that typically the market is kind of, I don't want to say ahead or behind it sometimes, but I think the point is that you're not going to find like 10 caps right now unless you're in like, a place that has, a 1,500 person population. Like you might be able to find it there.
Yeah, with the lagoon and
a bunch of other nasty stuff.
Yeah. So kind of rolling from this, that's basically the crash course for all the new guys out there of how to find a deal. It is literally that easy. But the biggest thing, and you go through Derek's course, or I believe you saw it. It's a course or mastermind, whatever. Go through Derek's program. He will teach you what to ask for, what to say, what you need to know, what's a good deal or not. But for the actual actionable steps of how to find a deal, Reonomy, smile and dial for at least 3 to 4 hours a day and follow up with each of those people every month. Assuming like if someone's like, I'm definitely not selling for 5 years. Okay, don't hit them every single month. Like hit them like every 6 months. But if someone's thinking about selling the next 2 years, once a month, boom, 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 boom. And I think there's more effective approaches than that. But if you're broke, you have no money, no skills, you have no choice but to just smile and dial. And it's that in 3 to 4 months, you will find a deal. You'll find something that you could probably get under contract. And even if you're not skilled enough to talk on the phones, because you're only going to get a lot of reps of how to get financials, because you could always talk them into that, get them to send you rent rolls. But what I noticed was hard to learn was getting someone to accept an offer and then actually go to contract, because you only have so many reps of doing that. For like every 1,000 calls, you maybe have one person you do that with. So you might only do that a few times a month. So you don't know like the skills of how to talk through it, try and get them to like really close the deal, sign the LOI or whatever. Like it's hard to do that for new guys, but you could get it far enough your first 3 months to find a deal and get it far enough along the process that you get a verbal yes to whatever offer you want. Go to a more experienced guy like Derek, and I guarantee if the deal's good, he'll partner with you. Boom. It's that easy. 3 to 4 months, everyone should be able to find a deal. Whether you decide to broker it, wholesale it, buy it, you can make money in this industry in 3 to 4 months. Just smile and dial.
Dude, and that's like this is gold information right there. And what's going to happen when you do this? You've got the steps. Armand just laid out the steps for you.
Yeah.
Right. So no excuses now. But what's going to happen is you're going to get on the phone one day and you're going to get blown up. I mean, you're going to get hung up on. Yeah. You're going to get cursed out, and then you're going to come to one of us and say that it didn't work.
Yeah.
And we're going to be like, get your ass back on the phone.
Yeah, and crazy. Yeah, and a lot of the times if you get blown out of the water on a phone call, they don't remember you. So call them 2 days later and just totally do a different pitch. Because if you didn't get to the point where you're explaining who you are, what you do, like you just say, hey, this is so-and-so, I'm just looking to see if you want to sell your park. They don't remember your name. So call them 2 days later and just kind of change the pitch around. Like you might have just caught them when they're like leaving a gas station, didn't want to hold the phone because they're pulling out of applause. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? Who knows? Go ahead.
So, all right. Yeah, I'll roll into the MHP value thing and the marketing and kind of where my head's at now as far as deal sourcing.
Let's talk about it. Go ahead.
So I think deal sourcing, like I was mentioning, if you're broke, you have to get on the phones. But I actually think that is not a scalable process, or it is hard to scale. Mainly because like the only way you could scale that is hiring other cold callers or VAs. VAs that are foreign and don't speak good English are typically really low percentages.
I know
some people are really good at it. But the biggest thing now, because we have technology, I think data is the most important thing. Because if you have data, all you have to know how to do is use technology to follow up automatically with that data. So my big thing now is, and when I did this first text blast, I got 20 people that messaged me, oh, I sold my park, that I've been talking with. Because I was manually following up and not using technology, I missed out on 20 plus deals. And at this point, it's probably like 40 something people that told me they sold. And I'm just like, I can't.
How much money is that?
Oh, let's say an average take home check on a deal. Let's say it's around 40 to 50K. And that's because I have broker splits and everything. But I mean, if you're wholesaling or you're a buyer, like there's like 100K in equity on the table that you could technically extract out of the deal. I mean, that could be $4 million. in equity, but just sitting there that I just missed because I didn't follow up correctly. So to touch on where I'm at now, the biggest thing that I had like a kind of an epiphany was when I was at SECO, the big convention with other brokers. I found out that the other big known brokerage teams in the industry, they were all telling me they're like 70 to 80% inbound leads. And what that means is whatever through their marketing, brand image, or something in the industry, they were known enough that people were coming to them when they wanted to sell their part. Meanwhile, me, I was 100% forceful outreach, which is what you have to do when you're broke. Now that I had some money and creativity and skills in the industry, I was trying to think like, okay, so clearly there's something to marketing and I don't get it. And actually my whole company, the Otherstreet Advisors, we do not understand marketing. And not to hate on the company, but it is what it is. Because we're just really good at on the phones. And when I was thinking through marketing, I was trying to think, why is it we have no marketing? And every time we've tried marketing, it hasn't worked in the past. And I think we were doing it wrong. And then I came up to this process in my own way. And I seem to be the only person that I think is using technology to this extent in commercial real estate, not just mobile home parks, but all commercial real estate brokers. They're all boomers that just smile and dial. First thing I was thinking of, I have all this data over the last 3 years I compiled. It's probably around 2,800, 2,900 correct property owners. And I'm thinking, I cannot dial all those people in a 3 to 6 month time period. Like I just can't, there's not enough time in the day to dial those work current deals. There's just not enough time in the day. So that means I have the data to sellers and I cannot follow up with them. There's not enough time in the day. So there's no way that calling is going to be the ultimate maximum approach. Calling is what you have to do when you're a beginner. But once you have tons of data and you have money, we got to start doing more than just calling. So first thing that I did was, all right, look back at my stats. 80% of my calls were left messages to the numbers that were correct. 80%. So that means like the majority of my time is leaving a voicemail that people don't listen to. And then when I started tracking text data when I would leave a voicemail and a text message, and I would get off a text message. So I looked up, I was like, all right, my whole database, rather than calling them myself, let me see if I can just get a nice, like shoot a text message to all of them at once. And then I found out there's like text campaign systems, and anyone that does marketing and other industries, they're probably like, yeah, it's a text blast. What do you mean? Like, of course we do that. But for some reason, commercial brokerage, everyone's such a boomer, like no one uses technology. So I use this program called Simple Texting, and there's a ton of other ones. Simple Text is the most expensive, but it was the highest delivery rate than others. And I just sent a text blast to the entire database. And then boom, I got with one text blast in one day, I got like 350 responses, which is more reaches than I would do an entire month. Like I would not reach 350 correct property owners an entire month calling. And I did that with one.
Wow.
Phone. So right off the bat, my mind was like, oh shit, I'm on something. And I found out like 20 of the people were like, oh, I sold my park. And I'm like, I talked to you in January.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. So I'm just like, all right. So there's a lot of money I left on the table purely because my follow-up was gone. So now I do like a monthly text blast and I'm still working through it, but I'm slowly guiding into how the MHP value thing came along. So what I thought was when I sent out this text blast, there wasn't enough time in the day for me to call those people back. Like I reached more people than I could actually talk to. So I was trying to think of what's a way I could automate their responses and them letting me know they want to sell and following up with them to a point that like it buys me some time. And at the time, I'm listening to this guy, Ryan Pineda, a lot on YouTube. And Grant Cardone is one of the guys that taught him. So Grant Cardone, he's like the master at social media outreach that funnels to landing pages that either sells them a product, service, something. And he's a pro at that. And I was thinking, I wonder if there's a way I could create a landing page or something to where I could like route all of my outreach to this landing page that gets them to let me know they want to sell. So that's where I came up with MHP value. And I was looking up all these different domains online. It was like, I bought, by the way, I own sellyourcre.com because I think I could scale out a lead gen company for all commercial real estate, not just mobile parts, called sellyourcre.com. So that's something I'm eventually going to do. But So MHP value, I was like, maximize your MHP value. That's like very straightforward, easy to understand for like your standard older mom and pop kind of mobile home park owner. So I decided I was going to shoot out the text blasts with some type of guiding to the MHP value website. And I was always making YouTube vlogs. And I know I'm bouncing around a lot, but this all kind of builds to the whole.
This is good. Keep going, man. This is good.
So I was making like really, really dumb YouTube vlogs trying to be like great value Logan Paul, like in college. Like I was doing stupid vlogs because I was like, I lived kind of a wild life for like a broke college kid, like traveling around. I feel like I had some crazy stories. I was an MMA fighter at the time too. Like, and I was like friends with a lot of famous MMA guys. So it kind of like, it's like, all right, I should make like YouTube videos because there are some crazy stories that like no one's documenting. And I'm like seeing like, just, I don't know, whatever. I'm making dumb vlogs. Flash forward years later, after I'm in this commercial real estate, I'm coming to this point in my mind. I'm like, wow, that was such a waste of time and waste of skills. Like this did not help me in any way, shape, or form. And then when I thought through the landing pages and all these guys I was watching on YouTube, and Ryan Pineda was the specific one at this time. But like I was saying, it's like Grant Cardone or anyone that does media content and funnels them to a page. I was like, how are these guys scaling up so much money? Like they scaled up so much faster than everyone. Like what am I not getting about this? And that's when I realized the whole landing page and the way that you know how to ask questions and lead someone towards the sale process on the phone, there's a process to that on the internet. And it all starts with media and knowing how to funnel them to an actionable step to get them to take towards your product or whatever. So what it turned out was the landing page and the website, I ended up basically, and this is going to be funny, and anyone watching this could look this up. And I think I showed you when we were together for the podcast in my channel, Derek. But if you look up this website, homerunoffers.com or homerunoffer.com, it's Ryan Pineda's landing page for single family wholesaling. Mm-hmm. My MHP value page is, I shit you not, exact copy. It is word for word, picture for picture, layout by layout. Like I copied it to an extent. I was on Squarespace and set up the website myself. But I was like, I'm sitting there spending a day of thinking how the website should look. And I'm like, why don't I just do the guy that's already succeeding in a different asset class and just do it myself the same exact way because I know it works. So I literally made the landing page exactly the same. And when you click to basically my value approach to get info is I have to give a free product to get their info in exchange or to get them to sign up. And for me, that was a free evaluation because when we would cold call as a broker, we would offer a broker opinion of value, a BOV. Some people call it a BPO, broker price opinion, something like that. But anyways, we would do an opinion of value is what we would do. And then we would get their info and then we would convert them to a brokerage client. So I was like, why can't I just do that with automation in the internet? So all my text campaigns, I thought, I'm going to make it, don't settle for a cold caller trying to lowball your park. You don't know who to trust. That guy giving you that crazy price, probably a wholesaler, not a real buyer. We'll give you an accurate 100% free evaluation, no strings attached. And it leads to this landing page. And now this is another thing, and this is where the videos hit. Sending the text blast. And I remember talking all through the years. I would tell sellers, I'll give you an evaluation on your park. And old 75-year-old Sally with the 90-unit mobile home park's like, what's an evaluation? Yeah, let me know what it's worth. And I'm like, no, I need to know your rent roll, your P&Ls. I got to underwrite it. We do an entire spreadsheet. I'm walking through this, explaining it on the phone. And I'm like, why can't I just do this on a video? If I'm texting them, why can't the text link just be the fucking video? I make a video explaining what an evaluation is. So now the landing page for MHP Value, and everyone listening right now could go on and see this live. This is not like, oh, I'm just telling you like some make-believe stuff. Like right now, this is exactly what I do. I'm letting you guys know the secret sauce to go make 250 grand a year, just pushing parks. MHPvalue.com, you click on it. It does free evaluation. Click on the free evaluate page. It's a video of me explaining what an evaluation is and a sign-up sheet. When you do the sign-up sheet, I already have it automated that it tells you what financials you need to send me. And a list of questions if you can't provide financials. So all of a sudden, without me having to talk on the phone or anything, I could send you a text message. You watch a video to where you feel like you know me, you know exactly what an evaluation is. You sign up, you automatically get an email telling you exactly what you need. Boom. Now, let's extrapolate this out. So basically, this is where people get marketing wrong. And I realize this, and now I'm scaling it up. when you think of a funnel in marketing, people who don't understand marketing build it from the top down. It needs to be built from the bottom up. And the reason for that is if at any point the funnel's broken, it does not work at all. So let me give you an example. If someone in the old school days would make a billboard and the billboard set a phone number to call for that service, and no one was there to answer that phone call every single time, all those leads you got at the top of the funnel just fell out because there was no proper follow-up or someone to answer the phone. That's an example of a broken funnel. When someone tries to run ads, a typical non-marketing person tries to run ads, they run ads, but there's no actionable step to capture that person's info. So they can have the best hook ever, the best ad ever, but if you have no way to actually funnel them towards your product and that funnel is broken at any point, they all fall out and it's almost like you get nothing out of the marketing. That's why so many people try ads, so many people try mailers, but it's a broken funnel. And that's why it never works for people. They sink money into it and they just give up and go back to cold call. The funnel needs to be built from the bottom up. And what I mean by that is, all right, how am I going to capture their info? It's going to be like the sign-up page, and the sign-up page goes directly to them and have their thing. So boom, that's my bottom of the funnel. How do I get people to look at that website? Text blasts. Now, all the people that I have text blasts, I have their emails too. What's another way I can add to this funnel? Email blasts. Now, for email blasts, the next phase that I'm going to, I believe Facebook ads is going to be a thing because older people seem to be getting on Facebook now. So I think Facebook ads will get even more people to the funnel. But if I started at Facebook ads and didn't have an effective landing page, Facebook ads up here in the funnel would be broken and they would just all fall out. So the funnel needs to be built from the bottom up, and you need to do what you know works first and then expand from there, not do some, I heard spamming mailers and email blasts would work. Well, it's like, what do the mailers route them to? So you think someone's just going to call you? Like, it doesn't work that way. You got to reel them in and offer free services and stuff on the internet to funnel them to eventually hitting your landing page and signing up. So like when I'm looking at the marketing now, like the text blast is the main driver because that has effectively made my follow-up rock solid. I do not miss a follow-up anymore because every single month, every person that I did all that time researching, getting their cell phone info is getting a text from me. And I do a text with a picture and the picture with a link to the website. And the link to the website takes them to the evaluation page. And there's always a hook in the text. Don't settle for that lowball offer. Sellers on average net 10% more than other people if they use our services. Get your free evaluation now. Click the link, boom, landing page, sign up. That's first thing. Now my emails too are optimized. And again, my YouTube acumen actually became a useful skill because I think the moat I have, and I have not scaled this up yet because I'm waiting for money to come in because I hit a little bit of a low point with interest rates going up. So I kind of screwed my plans. But now money's starting to flow in and I'm going to scale up, have more employees so I can scale this up and really ramp it up. But I think the moat that I have is I know no other broker in the space is willing to get on YouTube and make videos and talk to clients that way. So those 3 years of me being an absolute idiot on YouTube totally paid off to be a worthwhile skill. So now it's like I can make videos. I do like the video podcast like the one we did. And it was just like off the cuff. We just met one time for like 2 seconds. It's like, dude, next week we're doing a podcast. Next thing you know, we're ripping a podcast. And by the way, I got 3 potential deals from that podcast.
Wow.
Just from email blasts. Now it's the culmination of email blasts and everything.
For sure.
But like the marketing, like, and let me try and extrapolate this out. Hold on. I know I'm going on a rant. I'm going on a whole train right now.
Dude, this is good. Dude, I'm going with notes over here, dude. So this is good stuff, dude. I love it.
So when I'm building the funnel only works to a certain extent. And this is where I think all of the guys that I think we look up to, Grant Cardone, me in particular, Ryan Pineda, but all the internet marketing gurus, they've built their funnel from the bottom up. And then the absolute maximum of the funnel we have right now is media. It's a lot of steps to build up to that funnel. But once you get to that part, it is the maximum outreach, most scalability you can do. The only skill is figuring out how to do the funnel. Once the funnel is built out, now it's just about making really good media. So let's say I'm building up, next is Facebook ads. And then after Facebook ads, it's going to be just pumping out content that's basically the algorithm will pull people in rather than ads, you have to pay to target search terms and stuff. So that costs money. But the ultimate scale up is once you get big enough to where you could just make content and your funnel's so built out that your content funnels people eventually to your ultimate product. And I know Grant Cardone talked about like, he sells products to take people from 0 to 100 grand a year, and then sells products to take people from 100 grand a year to an accredited investor. And then his ultimate product is the Cardone Capital that he eventually sells them on. So he has giant funnel that everyone that watches them eventually gets funneled to Cardone Capital.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not trying to expand that much, but just within the deal sourcing to keep it with that. You're trying to think how I was going with this. Yeah, the biggest driver in it is media. Like, I do not think email blasts, and this is my criticism of even your email blast, Derek.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think email blasts with the typical copywriting kind of like story to get them to sign up for a webinar or link. I don't think those email blasts are effective anymore because everyone's doing it.
Mm.
I think you need to incorporate pictures and videos along with the words.
Mm.
So like, why my email blast? Like, my email blast drives almost half my pipeline now, more so than the text blast. And I never thought email marketing was actually going to be useful. But it's because the combination of my emails, my text blast with my picture, and they could see videos of me. Like, one of these ladies was like an 85-year-old lady looking to retire. Now, she's super unrealistic, and this might be a deal I dropped that I'm going to regret later. But like, she responded to my email that she's been watching my videos and she thinks I'm a go-getter. Here's all the financials without me even talking to her. And she's 85 watching YouTube videos. But I think the reason why people respond to the email marketing is there's something tangible they could watch from it. Because everyone can read words, and your copy can only be so good with words. But if there's no video to go along with the copy, I think it's not going to be as effective. I could be wrong, though, because I know there's email marketing gurus that disagree with me. And I know a lot of people's like emails now block pictures and videos and stuff like that. So I could be wrong, but I do think like just the words is relatively ineffective. Or it's not the maximum approach.
I can see that, dude. I can definitely see that. Cause I don't read, I got all kinds of shit going on. Like, I don't read most marketing emails that come through. I don't, but maybe if I clicked on it, there's a little video there, maybe I click it.
And I know Ryan Pineda, and I'm not to keep tooting his horn, but he does like a mix of them. And I actually think my emails are more effective than his, but he has way more media content driving it. So it's not that his email funnel's broken. It's that it's just not as effective as it could be. But yeah, I think emails building the funnel up. It's like with technology, I think technology has replaced cold calling to a certain extent, but there comes a point where it's still a cold. And again, this ties back to the cold call skills. Even though someone reaches out to me and they want to work with me, when I call them, it's still a cold call because they don't know who I am calling, and I have to explain I'm the guy from that video that you watched and signed up for, and this is why I'm calling you. Like, it's basically a cold call, and my ability to navigate these calls is tenfold better because I have 3 years of cold calling like a slave over and over and over again. That now, like, man, the calls when someone reaches out to me, and that most of my business is inbound now, it's bliss.
It's like Zen.
Yeah, I wake
Serenity.
up. I'm like, there's the next financials to my new deal I'm going to potentially work. And I call them. They want to talk to me. It's way better. But you need to cold call first to get there. And I think if you don't cold call and you don't do deals the old school way, you won't understand how to build your funnel because you don't know what your clientele is going to respond to. Like the people I'm targeting. So let's say you're on the buy side, right? The product you're pitching is I'm a good buyer for you. It's still a product you're pitching. Right. You don't know how to communicate and give and sell your product to that potential client if you haven't been through it the old school way. And now you figure out how to use technology to assist that. Technology doesn't necessarily replace it. The technology assists it. I'm still calling. I'm still cold calling. I'm still following up. I've just figured out the way to scale that up with technology via internet funnels.
Dude, this is some killer stuff. Like I got a page of notes here. Look, guys, if you got to heed some of this advice here. And I love what you said there because most people, and this, we'll end off with this, but most people, they hear someone say, cold calling is dead, never cold call again. I got the secret to never cold calling again. Like, but what you're saying is the truth. You have to know how to do it, because once you get that lead, you still got to fucking cold call.
Yeah, there's no internet funnel without the ability to cold call. You have to have the ability to cold call. So you guys got to go through the ringer. You got to be that guy who just smiles and dials down the list, take notes, follow up the old school way, and you'll know how to set up your eventual marketing, because you know how to do it the old school way first. And the marketing just assists it. Like, that's why earlier I to specify, it's not a substitute, it's an assisting of.
Well, dude, Armand, I appreciate it, and I know our listeners are going to appreciate it too. So thank you for coming on. I know we'll probably have you on again at some point. So everyone, thanks for watching and listening to the MHP Show. Don't forget to check out parkinvestingpro.com. Armand was talking about tracking stats earlier. I have, as a part of that program too, actually teaches you how I track statistics on a daily and weekly basis, so you can keep your leads going and various other things. So check that out. So that's it for the MHP Show. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Thank you, Derek.